The cafeteria was loud. Trays clattered. Laughter bounced off tile walls. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, a few seconds of silence were recorded. Silence before a shove, before a yell, before everything changed. When 17-year-old Andre Thompson woke up that Monday morning, he didn't know his life would be reduced to a 12-second video. He didn't know that by lunch, half the school would have seen him shove a white student to the ground in the middle of the cafeteria. And he definitely didn't know that by last period, he'd be sitting in the principal's office with a 3-day suspension slip in front of him, pending expulsion. The video was short, blurry, and cropped. It showed Andre, black and visibly angry, throwing a punch and knocking over a lunch tray. It didn't show what happened before that. It didn't show the slurs whispered behind his back. It didn't show the shove he received seconds earlier. It didn't show the look on the other student's face when he smiled after pushing him first. But none of that mattered. The school had a zero-tolerance policy for violence. And there it was, violence, on camera, on social media, and most importantly, from a black student who already had attitude issues, as one teacher privately put it. Andre tried to explain. He asked them to check the full cafeteria security footage. But the assistant principal told him the footage wasn't available. A malfunction, they said. There's nothing we can do if the camera didn't catch it. But Andre wasn't buying it. Because someone, somewhere, had sent the clip. Because cameras don't just turn on by themselves. Because the cafeteria has 4 angles, and this clip came from above an angle only accessible to staff. And so, Andre made a choice. He would appeal his expulsion. He would represent himself at the disciplinary hearing. And he would prove that the clip wasn't the truth. It was the system's version of the truth. This wouldn't be just a fight for reinstatement. It would be a fight to reclaim his story, pixel by pixel, frame by frame. Because what they cut out said more than what they kept in. Andre had seen it play on loop so many times that it burned itself into his brain. 12 seconds. One angle. A blurry shot taken from the northeast corner of the cafeteria, slightly elevated position where the overhead staff camera was known to sit. It began with a tray already in the air, a shout, and then Andre's arm swinging. The other student fell backward, clutching his chest, and students nearby gasped and pulled out phones. That was all anyone saw. What the video didn't show was the 3 minutes leading up to it. Andre remembered every second. The way Tyler Mays, lanky, smug, and untouchable, had walked past his table twice, knocking his shoulder each time. The way he whispered, "You always think you're owed something, don't you?" as he leaned over his table. The way he'd bumped Andre's tray with his elbow just before turning and smiling wide because he knew exactly how it would look when Andre reacted. He wanted a reaction. And he got it. Tyler never threw a punch. Just words and looks and a well-timed bump. The kind of provocation that doesn't show up on security footage. The kind of thing no one gets punished for unless the response is loud, physical, visible. Andre's shove was that response. And now, it was all anyone wanted to talk about. The principal had called it a lapse in judgment. The assistant principal used the word aggressive. His homeroom teacher, one who used to smile at him during morning attendance, said she was disappointed. Disappointed. As if the clip had erased every honor roll certificate, every tutoring session he'd volunteered for, every time he walked away from trouble. All gone. Replaced by a punch in 720p resolution. Andre sat in the hearing prep room, a small office with beige walls and a window that didn't open. His mom sat beside him, tired but supportive. The school had offered them a district-appointed representative. He declined. He didn't need a handler. What he needed was the full footage. "Are you sure about this?" his mom asked. Andre nodded. "If I don't speak now, they'll write the rest of the story for me." He'd already submitted his appeal. The hearing would be held in 3 days. It wouldn't be a courtroom, but it would feel like one. The school board's hearing officer would sit at the front. A panel of administrators would listen. Tyler wouldn't even have to be there. Andre knew what he was up against. He'd done his research. He learned about discovery requests, chain of custody for video footage, and what technical issues usually meant in school discipline cases. He knew that cafeteria cameras didn't just malfunction. They were motion activated, fed into a closed system, and archived for 30 days unless manually deleted. He also knew how to make people uncomfortable. Not by yelling, but by knowing more than they expected him to. He stood up, crossed the room, and looked at the small flat-screen TV mounted in the corner. "They want to say I'm violent," he whispered. "Fine. I'll show them what real force looks like, truth, documented." As he left the room, he checked his phone. Still no reply from the IT officer he messaged. But he'd wait. Because when the truth gets cut too soon, it doesn't disappear. It lingers. It builds. And it returns with context. The cafeteria cameras were supposed to be silent witnesses, objective, automated, always watching. But Andre had learned something important: even silent witnesses can lie. Not through sound or expression, but through what they leave out. He stared at the single frame pulled from the 12-second clip the moment his fist was mid-air, caught in motion like a freeze frame of judgment. That was the photo they had printed and added to his disciplinary file. No context, no surrounding footage, just that one frame. The incident, they called it. But Andre knew what it really was. A weapon. Used not to investigate what happened, but to justify what they already believed. He sat at his desk that evening, flipping through pages of the student handbook. He had found it online, an overlooked PDF buried deep in the district's outdated website. In it were details most students never read: the protocol for security footage access, the district's data retention policy, and the chain of custody process. That last part made him pause. Any security footage requested as part of a student disciplinary investigation must be retrieved, logged, and reviewed by both the school safety coordinator and the administrative officer. Andre highlighted the sentence. The word "must" stood out. He picked up his phone and texted again. Andre, to J. Sanchez, IT coordinator. Can you confirm if the cafeteria footage from last Monday noon was logged or reviewed per policy? Trying to clear something up before the hearing. I need to know. He stared at the screen, waiting for the typing bubble that never came. Instead, he looked through last year's student council yearbook pages. That's where he found her, Jamie Foster. Former council secretary. Now working part-time in the admin office during her gap year. He DM'd her immediately. Hey, weird question. Do you know who has access to the cafeteria footage system? Like, the full version, not the clip people saw. She replied almost instantly. Security desk logs all feeds. But the admin server has override clearance. Only 3 people can delete clips: Principal Hughes, VP Clarkson, and Mr. Denton. Mr. Denton. The building technician. Andre's heart sank. He remembered seeing Denton walking down the hallway minutes after the fight, earbuds in, holding a flash drive. The next morning, Andre went to school early, 2 hours before his scheduled hearing prep. He walked slowly, deliberately, past the custodial wing, where Denton's office sat behind a glass door. The door was slightly ajar. He knocked. No answer. Then, a voice: "You're not supposed to be here yet." It was Denton. Calm. Casual. Andre stepped in. I'm just trying to understand why the cafeteria feed wasn't available. You handle the cameras, right? Denton shrugged. Sometimes they don't record. Andre nodded, then said quietly, but they did. Didn't they? A pause. Denton didn't answer. But he didn't deny it either. Andre leaned forward. Someone trimmed that footage. That clip wasn't from a student phone. It was from the admin camera. I just need to know if there's a longer version. That's it. Denton exhaled slowly. If there were, it would have had to be pulled within 48 hours. That's policy. So it was pulled, Andre said. I didn't say that. But you didn't say it wasn't. Another pause. Finally, Denton looked up. You didn't hear it from me. But if someone submitted a request to archive a short segment, it means they watched the long version. They saw everything. Andre stepped back, his heart now racing, not from fear, but purpose. It was never about broken cameras. It was about broken trust. If there was even a single frame, one silent frame, that proved Tyler shoved him first, it meant the whole case was tainted. The truth didn't need sound. It just needed to be seen. The hearing room wasn't a courtroom, but it had the same weight. The same silence. The same sense that once you walked in, you weren't just defending your actions, you were defending your existence. Andre sat alone at a single wooden table. No attorney. No advocate. Just him, a stack of printed pages, and the quiet hum of a laptop fan. Across from him sat the panel, 3 administrators from the district office, 1 school board representative, and an appointed student conduct officer who looked barely older than he was. Each wore the expression of someone ready to get through this quickly. The empty seat to the right was where Tyler Mays was supposed to be. But he wouldn't show. He'd declined participation. Of course he had. Why wouldn't he? He wasn't the one on trial. The lead administrator cleared her throat. Mr. Thompson, thank you for attending today. You understand you're here in response to a physical altercation recorded during lunch on school property? Andre nodded once. Calm. Yes. But I'm also here because that video didn't start with the truth. It started with the system's conclusion. Whispers. One board member raised a brow. The administrator continued. You've waived legal representation and chosen to present your case alone. Is that correct? I haven't waived anything, Andre replied. I've chosen to speak for myself. He opened his folder, pulled out a stapled document, and passed it forward. This is the district's policy on surveillance footage management. Page 6 outlines the mandatory logging of all cafeteria recordings and who has access to them. The administrator flipped through the pages. I submitted a formal request for the full cafeteria footage from the time of the incident. I was told it was unavailable due to a malfunction. He paused. But based on my conversation with a former student council secretary, that clip was not student recorded. It was pulled from an administrative feed. He clicked his laptop and displayed an image from the clip's metadata, a still frame showing resolution specs and a server tag unique to internal systems. Not a phone camera. This proves it was accessed manually. A panelist leaned in. And your point is? Andre looked at each of them, one by one. My point is that someone watched the full video. Someone saw what happened before that clip. And someone decided what the rest of you would see. The silence was absolute. Andre stood. There are 4 cameras in that cafeteria. 4. I'm asking this board if you're truly seeking fairness, not to decide based on a viral edit. Not to let your judgment begin at the shove. I'm asking you to ask for all of it. Start the video earlier. The room remained still. But the air had shifted. The student conduct officer spoke for the first time. If what you're saying is true, that would constitute selective presentation of evidence in a disciplinary process. That's a serious allegation. Andre's voice didn't waver. I'm not making allegations. I'm asking for accountability. One board member turned to another. Quiet words exchanged. Andre sat back down. If I deserve to be punished, he said finally, then fine. But punish me for the whole story, not just the piece that fits your narrative. The administrator tapped her pen against her notepad, then looked at him. This hearing is now in recess. We'll reconvene after reviewing the material provided. Andre exhaled. Not because he had one. But because, for the first time, someone had stopped the clip from playing on loop. The hearing adjourned, but Andre didn't leave the school building. He found an empty bench in the guidance hallway just outside Ms. Vega's office, the counselor who once told him to avoid unnecessary confrontation. He sat, arms crossed, watching the dust float in the pale afternoon light. His heart didn't race. It waited. He had done what most students never even dared to try, put the system on the defensive. But now, everything hinged on what came next, whether they would actually review the footage he'd referenced, or quietly decide the outcome and move on. It wasn't just about what they said during the hearing. It was about what they chose to do when the room was empty. An hour passed. Then his phone buzzed. Envelope with arrow email, subject, access granted. Mr. Thompson, as part of the review process, the district has requested a temporary archive pull of cafeteria footage from 11:45 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. on the date of the incident. The footage is now being reviewed by the conduct officer. A reconvened session will occur tomorrow morning. Andre read it twice. They had retrieved it. Which meant someone finally acknowledged that there had been more to see. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the moment, the actual moment, he'd been pushed first. Tyler's elbow jab. The way his tray lurched forward, slamming into Andre's ribs. The quiet smirk, the whisper Andre would never forget. You people always overreact. Andre didn't snap because he lost control. He snapped because he had held it for too long. At 8 a.m. the next morning, the hearing room was different. No longer filled with assumption. But with something new. Tension. The lead administrator's expression was unreadable. But the student conduct officer looked up as Andre entered and gave him the smallest, most unexpected nod. We've reviewed the extended footage, she began. At timestamp 11 hours 58 minutes and 43 seconds, there is visual confirmation of another student making physical contact with you. Specifically, an aggressive elbow movement followed by a verbal exchange. This contact preceded your response by approximately 6 seconds. She looked down at the report in her hand. It appears the original clip circulated on social media was an edited excerpt of this footage. There is no record of who submitted the original version. We're investigating that internally. Andre stayed silent. We're not here to excuse behavior, she continued. But we are here to understand it. Context matters. And in this case, the context changes everything. She paused, then looked up. We are formally dismissing the expulsion request. Your record will reflect a minor incident, not a major disciplinary action. Andre blinked. He wasn't sure what he expected. Relief? Victory? But what he felt was something quieter. Validation. They had seen the missing minutes. The ones that proved he wasn't just the aggressor. They showed he was provoked, targeted, and reduced to a moment that wasn't even his to begin with. He stood to leave. Mr. Thompson, the conduct officer called after him. Why did you choose to represent yourself? Andre stopped at the door. Because if I let someone else speak for me, they might have left out the most important part. He stepped out into the hallway, back into the noise of the school day. But this time, no one looked at him the same. Because now they knew. There were minutes missing in more stories than just his. By the end of the week, the school had moved on. Or pretended to. The clip was still floating around. Students shared it in whispers, in private DMs, in group chats titled things like Lunch Fight 2.0 and Andre's Rage. But now, it had a new tag on it. Out of context. Funny, Andre thought. The truth didn't go viral as fast as the lie. He watched it play again, this time in a quiet computer lab where one of his teachers, Mr. Dalton, had offered him a space to decompress. Same loop. Same frame. Same look of anger on his own face. But now, he noticed something he hadn't before. In the milliseconds before his arm moved, in the blurry edge of the screen, was Tyler's elbow. Just barely. Just enough. That small detail had always been there. But no one wanted to look for it. Because they had seen what they needed to see. A black student. An angry outburst. Proof of the story they already believed. That's what a loop does. It becomes comfortable. Predictable. It makes people stop asking what came before. Andre leaned back in the chair and closed his eyes. He'd read the school's disciplinary report. It was now logged with contextual ambiguity, a phrase he found both insulting and hilarious. Ambiguity, he thought, was their favorite kind of truth. Just clear enough to pretend they understood. Just vague enough to not do anything real about it. At lunch that day, he walked into the cafeteria for the first time since the fight. Heads turned. Conversations paused. He didn't care. He walked to the same table where he used to sit. Pulled out the same chair. And waited. Within minutes, someone sat across from him. It was Maya, quiet, sharp-eyed, always reading, always watching. She slid her phone across the table. A new video was playing. Same day. Different angle. The footage showed Tyler walking past another student. Asian. Smaller. Tyler bumped him too. But that video never made it to the principal's office. It never turned into a hearing. Because that student didn't push back. Andre stared at the screen. "How did you get this?" he asked. "People are paying attention now," Maya said. "And they're done being quiet." For the first time, Andre saw the full cafeteria for what it was, not just a place to eat, but a place of patterns. And those patterns weren't random. Some students were always watched. Others never noticed. Some got warnings. Others got reports. And some stories played on loop until someone broke the cycle. Andre stood up, walked past the lunch line, and stared at the camera above the soda machine. A little red light blinked. Watching. Recording. Selectively remembering. He pulled out his phone. Not to fight. Not to defend. But to capture. Because sometimes, the best way to break the loop is to start recording your own. It wasn't a grand image. No dramatic courtroom. No applause. It was just a single frame. Paused. Enlarged. Cropped. And finally, seen. The cafeteria footage, unedited, uninterrupted, had now circulated through staff inboxes, school board servers, and even a few student phones. Someone had leaked the full video. No one said who. But by the time it reached Andre's hands, it didn't matter. It was the frame that mattered. The one where Tyler struck first. It wasn't theatrical. Just an elbow jammed sharply into Andre's ribs, then the smirk. No words were needed. That frame rewrote everything. And for the first time since the hearing, Andre breathed without anger twisting inside his chest. Not because the fight was over, but because the lie had lost. That afternoon, he stood in front of the school board again. This time, not as a defendant, but as a speaker. They'd invited him, reluctantly, diplomatically, to share his perspective as part of a new initiative on student equity. A gesture. But gestures are still opportunities. He stood at the podium. "This is the frame," he said, holding up a still image from the video. This was the moment no one wanted to see. The audience was silent. "Before this frame, I was a violent student. After it, I was misunderstood. But neither version is complete. Because I've always been the same person. The only thing that changed was who controlled the story." He stepped away from the mic. He hadn't written a speech. He didn't need to. Because the truth doesn't need decoration. It just needs daylight. When the meeting ended, the superintendent approached him. She wore the soft smile of someone balancing apology and politics. "We're reviewing our disciplinary protocols," she said. "Your case has opened conversations." Andre simply nodded. He wasn't there to clap for progress that should have existed years ago. Outside, Maya was waiting with a group of students. Some carried notebooks. Others had tablets. A few held cameras. "We're starting something," she said. "Not a club. A record." Andre tilted his head. "A record? Of every ignored incident. Every deleted clip. Every one-sided story. We're calling it the full frame." He smiled. Not because it would fix everything, but because someone had finally given the silence a name. That night, he sat at his desk, uploading the video, the full one, to a new page labeled Student Truth Archive. He didn't care about followers. He didn't care about views. He cared that the next kid wouldn't have to fight alone. That the next frame wouldn't need a trial. That someone, somewhere, would hit pause and ask, "What happened before this?" Because in the end, it wasn't the punch that defined him. It was the frame that freed him. And the voice that refused to stay muted.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that move the world. Thanks for watching.